Where does Islam stand on dealings with the non-Muslim world?
Well, Islam is a supremacist, authoritarian, violent, and aggressively expansionist religion, and consequently there are efforts all the time to spread it and to extend its hegemony over non-Muslim political entities. And remember that Islamic law is political and not just religious. And so the Islamic groups in the United States have been very canny and extremely successful over the last 20 years in essentially making people afraid to say anything critical about Islam, even in regard to jihad violence and Sharia expansionism, such that politicians are routinely treated as if they have committed some kind of a gaffe and are embroiled in a scandal if they say anything realistic about the jihad threat or about Sharia. And politicians have resigned over this. There have been media campaigns saying so-and-so is under fire for Islamophobia. And this is all a concerted effort by Islamic groups essentially to bring Sharia prohibition on criticism of Islam to the West. In other words, Sharia blasphemy law. And the left, which is censorious itself, has taken to it eagerly.
So where's the threshold between criticizing Islamic political and social movements
and actions and being hateful or...
Yeah, exactly.
Well, the fact is that we're dealing with an ideology, with a belief system. And I strongly believe that any belief system and every belief system can and should be subject to criticism, to critical scrutiny, to honest analysis wherever it may lead. But this doesn't mean that any individual human being ought to be victimized, or that any innocent Muslim or any innocent person of any creed, race, color, whatever, should suffer because of the tenets of any particular ideology. What the left does is conflate those two things and claim relentlessly that if you criticize the Islamic ideology, you are endangering innocent Muslims. There is no basis for thinking this, and it's a pernicious claim that is in line with their overall efforts to claim that conservative speech in general is tantamount to violence. And all this is a prelude to silencing it.
Is that a coincidence that criticizing Islamic or Muslim actions is being quelled, or is it coordinated?
Oh, it's very much coordinated. It's not a coincidence at all. The Islamic advocacy groups are made up of Muslims. The Muslims believe in Sharia, Islamic law. Islamic law considers criticism of Islam to be impermissible. The endeavor of the Islamic advocacy groups is to bring Islamic law to the West. And with their leftist allies, who also hate the freedom of speech, they are having a free rein, essentially, to bring Islamic blasphemy laws west under the guise of hate speech and so on, and Islamophobia, and to silence criticism of Islam accordingly. And the leftists don't know or care that they have thereby brought an aspect of Sharia and made it accepted in the West, and that other aspects of Sharia will follow.
Amish people, they follow an Amish law. When you talk about bringing Sharia to the West, is that just for Muslims to follow?
Unfortunately, Sharia is extended over non-Muslims, and all people pertain to it. So Amish law, if the Amish over there want to follow Amish law, that has nothing to do with me. Yeah. And they don't think it has anything to do with me. But in Egypt, for example, quite recently, there were a couple of Christians who were brutally murdered by Muslims because they were selling alcohol. Now, in Christianity, it's not illegal to sell alcohol. But they were making sure that the Christians understood that they also were subject to Islamic law.